I've received a lot of questions, not surprisingly, in the last week about things like our indoor fitness group activities and, of course, the issue about gatherings and events and why some are included. Firstly, around the guidance for indoor group fitness activities. As you know, those activities, whether they're sport or fitness, are on hold right now. And it's the group participation that is the concern. So whether that's more than 2 or 3 people. Our teams have been looking at the evidence about this and looking at the situation around the world and to make sure we get things right so that when they restart, it can be done safely. And we hope that that guidance will be available. I had hoped it would be available sooner, but it has turned out to be more complex than we realized. And that evidence review and the development of these new safe guidelines is ongoing, and I'm hopeful by the end of next week we will have those posted and more details will be available. I've also talking about the events and the mass gathering orders that we have. It's important to remember when we set, quite a long time ago, that 50-person limit for events, and we were consistent throughout this period of time in using that, it was the understanding that COVID safety plans would be in place, included in any event that was under 50. And the guidelines to develop the plans were based on what we were seeing and what we knew about this virus and about its transmission in the community and in indoor settings and other places. When we look at where transmission is occurring, we look at those things, and we've talked about this a few times. We know that some settings are more risky than others. So indoor settings, the types of activities can be more risky than others. So whether it's a wedding or an event where you're socializing with your group of people, or whether it's an indoor fitness class, and of course the people who are at that event. We know, for example, that social gatherings are much riskier because it's hard for us to resist that need to be close to people that we know and care for. Right now in BC, as around the world, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, across this country, in Europe and other places, we are seeing a much higher level of community transmission. This means that things that were safe, using the guidelines we had developed over the last 10 months, are no longer in that safe zone. This is different than what we were experiencing before, in the spring, in the summer, and even earlier in the fall. This means that any location that was able safely to have gatherings even a few weeks ago, including temples, churches, gurdwaras, and other important, critical religious venues, are not safe today. I'd like to be clear that these locations are not doing anything wrong. I know the vast majority have had very good COVID safety plans in place. They've had limited numbers of people coming for services. But despite that, we have seen outbreaks in BC, in churches, in multiple faiths, in multiple places in the province, in temples, in gurdwaras. So these are not decisions that we make lightly. We have seen transmission despite people's best efforts in settings, and we know that we don't want to be passing this on to people who may be at high risk in those settings. I've spoken about the fact that we are in a pandemic storm, our COVID storm, and now we are facing a storm surge, and that is something that we are facing globally. While we might have been safe to be close to the water, close to that edge, our safe zone has moved back. That sandbar where we can act safely has become smaller. That is why we've put in these restrictions now on those social gatherings, on those places, those events that were safe even a few weeks ago. And we all need to do our part to bring that community transmission back down so we can resume those activities that are so important. It is a cruel irony in many ways that when we most need to be with people, that is the most dangerous thing that we can do with this level of transmission we're seeing in communities across the province. But we do remember that every storm ends and that the surges wane. And our focus right now has to be on doing that. I'd also want to put out my appreciation and gratitude to the many faith leaders around this province who are supportive of this, who are paying attention, who are supporting their congregants at this time of need, because it is a most uncertain and frustrating and challenging time. And now's the time more than ever we need each other, and we need to be with each other safely.